Hello and welcome. My name is Sara Harberson and I'm America's College Counselor. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. This is a special edition of Facebook Live. Yesterday, the College Board announced that they would be canceling the June SAT and subject tests. And just 24 hours later, the ACT posted that they would be offering flexible scheduling for the June and July tests. Both the College Board and the ACT both announced that they are developing remote at-home exams as well, in case schools remain closed in the fall. I had a feeling that a lot of you would have questions, especially those students that were planning to take these tests. Unfortunately, there were a lot of high school juniors that were hoping to take the March SAT, the May SAT, the June SAT, and now they don't know what to do. The same thing goes for students who are planning to take the April ACT. So I'm going to be answering your questions. You can ask your questions in the comments section below the live feed. I also want to make note that dozens of colleges and universities across the country have announced that they're going to be waiving the SAT-ACT requirement for the class of 2021. That's the current high school junior class. And a lot of colleges are also announcing that they're going to be going test optional, either for a period of time or that they are adopting a full-fledged test optional policy. So if you have questions about the SAT, ACT, subject tests, what's going to happen in the fall, how about those test optional schools or those colleges that are going to be waiving the requirements, I'm here to answer those questions. It looks like we already have one coming in from Tammy. I have a junior and we homeschool. We depend on the ACT and SAT to validate her grades. What do I do now? All right, so Tammy, for students who are homeschooled, or really any student who wants to kind of strengthen their application, that's sometimes what the standardized tests will do. What I can say is that both the College Board, that's the organization that oversees SATs and subject tests, and the ACT are going to be offering a lot of testing options. So even if schools are closed in the fall, they're both working at this at-home or remote exam. If schools do open, and I think we're all hopeful and optimistic, the SATs and subject tests will be offered in August. They're also going to be offered a special date in September, October, November, and December. And for the ACT, it sounds like there's supposed to be some scheduling flexibility with June, July, September, and further on in the fall as well. So for those high school juniors, I'm hopeful that they're still going to have an opportunity to take these tests. But if they're not able to, you're going to see a lot more colleges every single day announcing that they are waiving the testing requirement for at least that class of 2021. But that does mean that if test scores are not available for that student, that their high school transcript is going to matter even more. The next question coming in from Haley. Hi, is it still worth taking subject tests? Also, the College Board said that they were going to give priorities to some students. Is this true? Does that mean August could fill up too quickly? All right, let's take your second question first, Haley. I have seen communication over the last 24 hours of students who were signed up for the June test, and now that it's canceled, they got communication from the College Board saying that they would be notified to be able to sign up for that next test. I've also seen communication sent to students who have not had an opportunity to take the SATs at all. And it sounds like the College Board will be giving those students preferences before everybody else. So as soon as that first test is available, you're going to see that those students have preferences in terms of signing up or registering for that next test. In terms of subject tests are only required or recommended by a handful of colleges and universities. I would say, though, that if you think you can do extremely well on those subject tests and you can make it happen because these tests are going to be available to you to take, then absolutely you can take them. But I would say that you only want to send those scores if they're going to strengthen your application. The only colleges that are going to be requiring these subject tests or recommending them at this point, again, a handful of institutions across the country, and they're going to expect very high scores. So what I tell my students is take a practice exam in that subject test, get a feel for what your score would be like, especially as you get closer to the date. If your scores are 700 or higher, or more realistically, 750 or higher, then I would say you're probably ready to take those subject tests. But taking those subject tests, if you're getting 500 range or 600 range scores, is probably not going to help you. At this point, there aren't many schools that are going to require or recommend them, and even there are some colleges saying that they are no longer looking for them. MIT is no longer accepting subject tests at all, for example. Next question, how can our juniors differentiate themselves without spring activities or standardized tests? Does it all come down to grades? No, it doesn't come down to grades. It's going to be a lot of different pieces in the application. So let's walk through all those pieces. The high school transcript always is going to carry the most weight. If your high school is offering pass-fail, or they're actually giving out grades for the remainder of the school year, then that is a way to show that you're continuing to do well. But 9th through 11th grade, grades and curriculum are going to matter. Senior year classes and senior year grades actually can really be helpful for those students, especially if their high school adopted a pass-fail system for the end of the school year. Testing is just one piece of the puzzle. There's also going to be a letter of recommendation from the counselor of record, one or possibly two letters of recommendation from core academic teachers. Usually those junior teachers are the best teachers to write letters of recommendation. Activities, essays, sometimes even supplemental essays as well. But going back to those activities, all of these spring activities have been canceled. So all the school-sponsored ones, the sports, service work for the most part, part-time jobs, students are not doing it. And we don't know what's going to happen this summer. A lot of the summer programs that students were planning to do have already been canceled. Sometimes their jobs that were lined up are not going to be happening because of concerns of COVID-19. So what can a student do? Summer is a great opportunity, and I encourage students to be really creative. Those students who are going to think outside the box and be able to do something at home, remotely, on their own, or a job in some way, are really going to have something to list for summer 2020. So I wrote about this in my blog, and there was even an article that came out in the last 24 hours from a major news outlet that said those students that are creative, thinking outside the box for summer, are at least going to have something to list on their applications. Next question. Is there a website that has all the colleges listed that are waiving these tests? Yes, there is. I often use fairtest.org. That is a nonprofit organization that has been in existence for decades, and they keep track of all the colleges that are test optional or the ones that are going to be waiving the SAT and ACT for the class of 2021. So check out fairtest.org. Another place to check out, actually, I post on my Instagram stories and Facebook story every single day. As soon as a college or university announces that they're going test optional or they're waiving the testing requirement, I will post it to my stories on Instagram and Facebook. So check that out as well. Next question. Tips need for virtual tours. Are there some that are better than others? Who is having online information sessions? So all of those students that were planning to visit colleges over spring break have not been able to do that. And they're getting nervous because as senior year approaches, they know that visiting colleges can be really helpful, not only in determining whether or not they should apply to that college, but it can also be helpful when they start writing supplemental essays. But all these admissions offices are closed. So you want to go to every college's admissions website first. Almost all of them are going to have a virtual tour. Some of them are better than others. I was checking out the virtual tour for Washington University in St. Louis. It's a great private university, and they do a beautiful job. What's interesting is you can actually sign up or actually register for that virtual tour, so they actually will have a record that you watch the virtual tour. It's not the same as actually walking on campus and seeing that beautiful community, but it can at least help a student figure out a few things, like whether or not they're going to apply, and also it can give them some insight when they start writing those supplemental essays. So virtual tours are really the first step of the process, but there are a growing number of colleges that are offering virtual information sessions. If you were to visit a campus and go to the admissions office, you could sign up for an actual tour and an information session, but now they're doing virtual information sessions. Those are usually led by admissions officers on staff, and you usually have to register. The reason why these colleges are asking for students' names to attend a virtual information session is this might replace what's called demonstrated interest. For a long time, there are a majority of colleges out there that will factor in demonstrated interest into the admissions process. The best way to show demonstrated interest is to visit that campus and go through the admissions office for a tour and an information session. Now that that can't be done, those virtual tours and those virtual information sessions sometimes will be counted as demonstrated interest. So make sure, if you are a student, to sign in, make sure to register. It's important to do that because it can actually show that college that you're interested in them, especially if campus doesn't open up right away. Next question, do you think the ACT will be canceled too? Sharon, that's a really good question. You know, it's interesting, the College Board made this announcement yesterday, and as soon as they did, we were scrambling to try to make this happen for tonight, and I'm so glad we did. Not surprisingly, 24 hours later, we get an announcement from the ACT, but if you actually look at the language, and we'll post a link to it in the comments section, they don't technically say that the June 13th test is canceled. All they say is they're going to be offering flexible scheduling for June and July testing. They give an example that the June 13th ACT, students will have the flexibility to possibly take the June 20th, a new June 20th ACT. The same thing for July. There was a July 18th ACT scheduled, and they're saying there's flexible scheduling for a July 25th ACT as well. So they haven't come out and said that it's canceled. But if the SAT is canceled a week prior to that, I think there's a pretty good chance that we're going to be in the same situation for the ACT a week or 2 weeks later in June and possibly even in July. The good news is once those schools open up, once we get back to normal, those testing sites will be available for students. The moment you can register for these tests, you want to go on the College Board website or the ACT website and be able to register. Again, those students who haven't had a chance to take the SATs yet will get first dibs, and those students that were signed up for June also will get some preferences. But in the end, I believe starting in May, the College Board will make those registrations available to students, so make sure you sign up. Next question, will the College Board consider online testing? Yes. So just to give you an example, the College Board oversees a number of standardized tests. They do the PSAT, they do subject tests, they do SAT, they also do the AP curriculum and the AP exams. So if you are taking AP classes and you're taking AP exams this year, they're going to be done online. That's the College Board's plan. They will be happening in the month of May. The student can do it from home remotely. They're going to be shorter than the regular AP exam because most students across the country weren't able to finish all the content for the AP curriculum. So the College Board is going to see how that goes with AP exams in May, but I think even before COVID-19 happened, I can guarantee you that the College Board and the ACT have been working very hard to figure out a way to make these tests more accessible, whether it's making them available online, and the ACT has some experience with that already, or being able for students to not only take it online, but be able to take it from home. I think the big question is going to be, are these secure? Are they accessible to all students? And that's going to be something that we're going to be watching with these AP exams in May, and we'll see what happens with the College Board's launch and the ACT launch of these at-home remote exams. Next question. In a test optional world, extracurriculars carry more weight. What can juniors and sophomores do given they are stuck at home? All right, so if you're not submitting test scores, and it's a test optional school where they're waiving testing requirements. As I said earlier, your transcript will carry more weight. So senior year performance can really make a big difference, but other things as well. So everything's going to matter a little bit more if a student doesn't submit test scores. So what can these students be doing remotely at home while we are being careful with COVID-19? I would say anything that your child, if you're a student, anything that you are passionate about, if you have creativity and ingenuity, you're going to be able to do it wherever that is. So if you are an artist, you can be spending every single day building up your body of work, your collection. And when the schools open, you could possibly put together a beautiful exhibit of all the artwork that you created. If you're a writer, oh my gosh, this is perfect time for writing. I'm writing a book right now. I'm trying to juggle a business, but if I had nothing else to do all summer, I would be writing every single day. In terms of, those athletes who aren't going to practice and aren't able to train the way that they're used to, anything they can do at home, staying in shape. Those students who have great communication skills, they can get on YouTube, they can build an Instagram account. There's so many things that students can do from home. And as I said earlier, the more creative, the more ingenious a student is, the better results they're going to see. And frankly, if you have to spend a lot of money, don't do it. It's the same thing with those pay-to-play programs that a lot of students do over the summertime on college campuses. Sometimes they cost $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 to go to Harvard for the summer when admissions officers don't want you doing that in the first place. So look around, see what you can do around your house. And also, family responsibilities could be increased. I know at least in our home, 2 working parents, our oldest is taking on a lot more responsibility with our 2 younger kids. So that shouldn't be overlooked as well. That can be an activity that a student lists on their activities list. Next question. If current seniors delay enrolling in the fall due to COVID-19 concerns, will that make admissions more competitive for the class of 2021? I'm getting a ton of questions just like this, Susan, from my blog to my Facebook pages and also from the Families in Application Nation. Okay, so here's the thing. The current high school seniors, that class of 2020, a lot of people are saying, and I tend to agree, that there are going to be a lot more students requesting what's called a gap year. In a given year, there is just a small percentage of high school seniors that will request a gap year. That basically means they're going to graduate from high school. Instead of going right on to college, they will do something special like travel through Europe or work for the Peace Corps or work for City Year, for example, which is a way for students to work in an urban school district. Students who want to take a gap year usually have to send a formal request to the college where they plan to enroll. They put information in that request describing what they plan to do for the year. And there's such a small number of students that request a gap year every year that almost every student is granted. I remember being a dean of admissions and signing off on these. As long as there was a plan, I would say, yes, that's fine. It was such a small percentage of students requesting it. I do think there will be an uptick in the number of students requesting a gap year. However, every college knows they've got to be really careful. If they say it's okay for twice, 3 times, 4 times as many incoming freshmen to take a year off before starting, that puts so much pressure on these colleges to fill those spaces with other students. And that usually means they have to go to their wait list. That usually means that they're going to have to increase their acceptance rate significantly. So it is my belief that these colleges will probably need to put a cap on the number of students that they grant a gap year. And that probably will look very close to what they typically do every single year. It's a small percentage. So it is my belief that it won't affect those current high school juniors as much as we think. The last thing that I'll mention, and it's been coming up again a lot of families are asking about this. I want you guys to just remember what a gap year could look like for the coming school year. Instead of traveling abroad, instead of doing a traditional gap year experience where you're doing major service work, some part of the world or some part of the country, If things are canceled, students won't be able to do that. And even though a lot of us are thinking that at least part of the fall semester could be online, my feeling is I'd want my child to start freshman year of college and be able to take classes. If not, that student who was hoping to do a gap year could be sitting at home doing nothing. And there are a lot of restrictions for those students who take a gap year. Usually the colleges do not want you taking classes at your community college or local university. They want you to take all of your college classes at the institution where you are planning to enroll. Next question. If tests become optional and your child has already taken the SAT and scored a 1340, should she send the scores or not? Okay, great question. It's really going to depend on, number one, the colleges on that student's list. And you've got to see how the student's SAT or ACT scores match up with that college's middle 50% range of scores for admitted students. So I did this exercise 2 nights ago with the Application Nation Class of 2020 group. I showed them, I went on Santa Clara University's admissions website. I picked Santa Clara because they are one of the universities that is waiving the SAT, ACT requirement, and I wanted to show them how to figure out whether or not the student should send their scores if they had a chance to take them already. So if you do a basic internet search, you look up Santa Clara University, whatever college it is, the most recent freshman class is the class of 2023. That's the current college freshman class. And you write Santa Clara University 2023 freshman profile. And what will come up is a summary of that admitted pool of students for the current freshman class. Not every college is going to have this, but a lot of them do. And if you scroll down on that website, on that web page for Santa Clara, you will see the middle 50% range. It'll break down the combined SAT scores of their admitted students, and then each section, the evidence-based reading and writing score and the math score, and even the ACT score. So what you would do is take your child's scores and see if it matches up to at least the middle 50% range. If it does match up to the middle 50% range, then I would recommend that your child submit those scores because that will reflect the middle group of students who are admitted. Obviously, if your child's scores are higher than that, absolutely send those scores. They can only help them not only in terms of admissions, but if that college offers merit scholarships and your child has higher test scores in the middle 50% range of last year's admitted pool, they're probably going to have a better chance of a scholarship and maybe even a bigger scholarship than they expected. All right, next question. Do you think if fall semester is online, will it reduce the rate? And I'm not sure what that question means. Do you think if fall semester is done online, will it reduce the rate? Well, let's talk a little bit about, will the applicant pools be smaller? I think they will be. I think we started to see that even this year, even before COVID-19 hit. If you're talking about the acceptance rate, will the acceptance rate be lowered or will it increase? If it's a smaller applicant pool and there's more concern about whether or not students will enroll at the same rate, the acceptance rates will probably increase as well. So I think going in this class of 2021, it's not a perfect situation at all, but there are some things being put in place, some accommodations being put in place, and I have a feeling they're going to be smaller applicant pools and higher acceptance rates, which means larger percentages of students who are going to get admitted. Next question. Will the online SAT or ACT scores be viewed differently than the traditional exam before the virus? It's hard to tell. I think it's going to come down to how credible these exams are. How safe and secure are they? And if the College Board and the ACT do a really good job of verification and there aren't students taking the test for someone else or SAT and ACT tutors taking the test for students, and we can be sure that these are credible exams and credible scores, I think that they will be viewed similarly to the exams that were taken before the virus, but we really have to wait and see. And I think there's so much uncertainty, and I think that's why so many colleges and universities have already come out and say, listen, if you don't have an opportunity to take these tests, or if you took them and you're not happy, it's okay. This is the year where if you don't want to submit your scores, you're probably not going to have to do that for a majority of colleges and universities. It's huge when the largest public university system in the country, the University of California, says that they are waiving the SAT and ACT for the class of 2021. And every single day after that announcement, we've seen more and more colleges make very similar announcements. So if testing is your thing and you already had a chance to take it, or you're going to have a chance to take it, and you do well, send those scores. But if testing is not your thing, or you haven't had an opportunity to do that, you're not going to be disadvantaged, and the other pieces of your application are going to weigh a lot more. Next question, how will scholarships be affected if the school is SAT or ACT optional? It's a question, Carrie. At one point, I worked as a dean of admission at a test optional college. And at that time, when I arrived, they offered merit scholarships. Now, the reason why colleges offer merit scholarships, we could say it's to, really let those students know how well they did and how impressed they are. But it really comes down to getting that student to enroll. That's why colleges give merit scholarships. A lot of times, if a college is test optional and they offer merit scholarships, they want to give those merit scholarships to the top of their applicant pool. Sometimes it includes students who apply under the test optional policy. A lot of times, though, it's going to be for those students who got very high test scores in that applicant pool. Because here's the thing, even if a college is test optional, they still are tracking and reporting their average SAT and ACT scores, because there's still going to be a big percentage of their applicant pool that does send in scores. They want those scores to be as high as possible, and they're probably going to be giving out merit scholarships to those students who do well. However, I think more and more colleges that are test optional are realizing that if they are test optional and they offer merit scholarships, they have to give those students a chance to get them if scores were not submitted. So that student who did really, incredibly well all throughout high school and the rest of their application is really strong, they should have the same chance of getting that merit scholarship, in my humble opinion, as that student who submitted test scores. Next question. Hello, my son is 16 and a junior. Do you think they will continue with the SAT and ACT tests? Will colleges be lenient where applications are concerned, say the deadlines for juniors? We live in Pennsylvania. So I think, for the foreseeable future, the College Board and the ACT will still be in existence, but I think their credibility was shaken last year with the admissions scandal, and there is concern that there are going to be so many students that are not going to be able to take the test. I do think it still will be a factor to some extent, but I think there are going to be a lot more colleges going test optional moving forward. The last time I checked fairtest.org was earlier today. I think there are something like 1,300 or between 1,100 and 1,300, definitely over 1,000 colleges and universities across the globe that are test optional. I'm gonna say that number is going to continue to increase every single day. Next question, what about the Bright Future scholarship requirements? Are they reducing the SAT, ACT grades to get the full scholarship? So Bright Futures, a lot of the states, so Florida, for example, has this incredible scholarship program. It is a way for them to keep their high achieving students in state to go to a Florida college or university. Bright Futures is dependent on a lot of things, including a student's test scores. My sense is that those scholarship programs like Bright Futures are going to have to make some accommodations to their strict rules right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Everything is happening minute to minute. You can see colleges making announcements every single day, the College Board, the ACT, and my guess is we're going to start to see some of those scholarship organizations make some announcements too about how this is going to affect the next admissions class. Next question, if the SAT, ACT are not required at some in-state schools, how might that affect the in-state scholarship money? Well, it's really going to depend on the institution. Not all colleges offer merit scholarships. Some of them are a lot more generous. I would say a lot of times you're going to see a lot more generous merit scholarship programs offered at private colleges and universities. But that said, if an in-state institution, your state college or state university is waiving the SAT or ACT requirement, we'll have to see if they give merit scholarships out to students who submit scores and students who don't. Again, in my opinion, those merit scholarships should be available to both sets of students, especially if they're going out saying that they are not going to disadvantage a student who doesn't submit scores. Next question, my daughter's applying to West Point. Have you heard anything about the academies and how they're going to be dealing with tests? We will have our hands full trying to get politicians to write recommendations. So Jenny, I'm so impressed with your daughter applying to the service academies, West Point and the Naval Academy. Those are the two most competitive ones, but there are a number of others. The service academies, they generally are going to be looking at SAT and ACT scores. They also require class rank, if you can believe it. So even if your child's high school doesn't report rank, they have to for the service academies. There's a lot to do. There are so many extra steps involved if your child or you are applying to the service academies. Unfortunately, I have not heard anything about the service academies yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But again, if you want to keep track of which colleges waive the SAT and ACT requirement for the class of 2021 or go test optional, make sure to follow my Instagram account, Sara Harberson, and it will also show up on my Facebook stories as well. All right, next question. Will early decision versus regular decision look different next year? Stacy, I believe so. I think we might see some extended deadlines. We saw that in regular decision even before COVID-19 hit. There's a reason why colleges extend deadlines. They're hoping to get more and more applications. But I could see this affecting the early pools the most. This past year, we saw a lot of colleges that offer early decision that were seeing huge increases every single year in their early decision applicant pool. We saw a lot of those colleges see a decrease in the number of applications for the first time in a long time. I think that trend will continue, and because of COVID-19, there are a lot of families out there that are going to be concerned about their child committing to an early decision program. You guys know that if you get admitted early decision to that college, you are expected to enroll unless there is a financial aid issue. But the fact is that if families are concerned about jobs, their savings, their income, their assets, because of the economy, a lot of those families may say that their child can't apply early decision. They have to kind of see what options are out there, not only what schools they get admitted to, but what financial aid and merit scholarships they get. So I believe that we're going to see smaller early decision applicant pools, sometimes significantly smaller early decision applicant pools. Early action, there's no commitment. I could see early action still being a popular choice. I see extended deadlines happening, both for the early round and also for regular decision. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm anticipating for the coming year. Next question. My daughter got a nearly perfect SAT score. Is that still going to help her? Absolutely. It's still going to help her. So even these colleges that are waiving the SAT and ACT requirement, it doesn't mean that you can't send your SAT and ACT scores, especially if you did well. That's incredible that she did so well. So that's the good news. She can send that in. It's going to help her in the admissions process. It could also help her get a merit scholarship. Next question. Do you think tuition will decrease for the fall if colleges start at a later date? Oh, good question. I think if online classes continue, there is probably going to be a fairly significant uproar about whether or not families are going to pay that full tuition amount. Obviously, if it's a full semester going online, there's no room and board, but we're starting to hear from a number of groups, student groups at Drexel University, for example, a group of students suing Drexel because they want a refund on part of their tuition. They're saying that the student experience is not the same online. So I think colleges are going to have to really take a hard look this summer at their budgets and figure out whether or not they will need to adjust their tuition. It is a tough decision for a college or university to make, but hopefully they will be thinking about students first. Next question. My daughter is interested in majoring in a BFA in dance, which requires auditions. Very cool. What impact do you see if no in-person auditions can happen? Okay, so some of these conservatory programs, a dance program, a music program, an acting program, these a lot of times are going to require auditions, especially at a larger university with a very structured conservatory program. A lot of times they will have auditions sometimes on campus or in major urban areas, like they'll have auditions in LA or New York or other major cities. If they can't happen in person, I can see that portfolios will matter more, and some type of Zoom audition will probably need to happen. That's probably what's going to happen moving forward if campus is still not open. And if that happens, auditions can't happen either. But I would just hold tight. I think there are going to be plenty of opportunities for them to share and for your daughter to share their dancing ability. Next question. Hi, Shirley. Do you expect a higher applicant pool for public universities in order to take advantage of in-state tuition? You bet. Yeah. I think those private colleges and universities are going to take a big hit. Some of these private institutions are going to cost $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. A lot of families, even the families that say that they could have afforded it before COVID-19, are going to be reevaluating things. I'm already seeing different choices with the current high school seniors. You know, they might have gotten into some private universities. They might have gotten into colleges that were dream schools across the country. But they're looking at those colleges that are closer to home. Sometimes they're state institution because they're getting better tuition. They're getting accepted to an honors program. And frankly, they're not going to have to go into debt like they would if they went to that private college or university. I think in this time where we're not sure what's going to happen, travel could be restricted further, getting home could be difficult, money is an issue. It's definitely on the minds of every American family right now. Some of those in-state, public state universities are going to look a lot more attractive, not only to this current group of seniors, but all the younger students following behind. Next question. If classes are online in the fall, which leads to current seniors deferring their enrollment for a year, how will that affect the current juniors? Will this make admission even more competitive? So Laura, I think I answered a very similar question. It's my belief that there are going to be more students who are requesting gap years, but I don't believe those colleges are going to be able to open up the floodgates and allow everyone to take that gap year that wants to. I believe they're going to have to put a strict cap and it's going to be based on what they've done in the past. So I don't believe it's going to hurt those current juniors. Next question from Julie. Is it better to send an ACT of a 33 than an SAT of a 1460? So here's a little tip. This is what I use on a regular basis because I can't tell. I think the ACT of a 33 is a better score, but I always look at a concordance table that's sponsored by the College Board and the ACT. This is when these two organizations come together and agree upon something. Maybe we'll be able to actually post it in the comments section so you can take a look at the link. You can match up your SAT score and your ACT score, or if you've just taken practice exams, and you can see which score is better. Obviously, you could send both, but you want to, most students want to send the colleges the better score. So check out that concordance table, that concordance chart, and you'll be able to tell. Next question. What is the best way to include accomplishments, opportunities that were canceled on an application? Good question. For example, national drill competition, sports, leaderships, camps that didn't take place. Okay, so we can definitely have this conversation again and again, especially in August when students start filling out the application. But if a student was selected to go to nationals or an international competition and it got canceled, or the student got selected to do girls' state or boys' state, or got selected to do the State Department program for high school students, these are all really cool opportunities. What I'm going to recommend that students do is use language to make it clear that they were selected. And obviously, these admissions officers know that all the spring events and possibly all of the summer events and opportunities will be canceled, so it will be clear. But I think it's going to be okay for students to list that. It probably means, though, that there are going to be a lot more things that they can list on the honors section of an application. Whether you use Common App or Coalition App or an institutional specific application, there's a spot for honors. A lot of times students don't have anything to list there. So if they had an opportunity to go to one of these major events or got a big award, but it wasn't able to happen because of COVID-19, they can list it under the honor section. They could also list it under the activity in the activity section as well. Next question, my daughter was deferred early action from her dream school. So based on your advice, she wrote a passionate letter telling the admissions officer that it was her first choice school, and if accepted, she would enroll. She was accepted. That's amazing. Except she no longer feels comfortable going to a school 10 hours away. If she declines the offer of admission, will it hurt her chances to go to that school later for graduate work? Not at all. This is such a tough thing for our kids. It doesn't matter if they're high school seniors or if you have younger kids, they're all impacted. It's scary. I'm so proud of your daughter, Anita. I'm so glad she listened to my advice and it worked. I'm so glad that she got admitted. If a student turns down a college or university, it doesn't impact them for graduate school. You have to remember that the undergraduate admissions office is different than their graduate admissions, and the two offices do not share applications, so they would never know that she got admitted and decided not to come in the year 2020, when it would be absolutely normal for a student to make the right decision for them. But I'm really, really proud of your daughter, no matter where she ends up. Next question from Pam. My friend's daughter was denied from a public school, a public university back in February, and then received an email, I've been hearing about this, that reads, "Congratulations, we have a spot for you due to new funding." This seems to have something to do with coronavirus and students not committing to the school, right? How can they do this? Yeah. So I heard about this over the last couple of days. There are students that were denied at some public universities, I'm not going to name names, and then they find out that all of a sudden they're on the wait list, or all of a sudden they get admitted. What's going on? It is directly related to the fact that these colleges are absolutely terrified that they are not going to be able to reach their enrollment goal for the freshman class. You have to remember, they have an enrollment goal. If the freshman class is supposed to be 1,200 students in a given year, they have to deliver 1,200 students to that college, that president, their board of trustees. If they see that enrollment deposits are tracking behind, first they will go to the wait list. But if their wait list isn't strong enough, that's what could happen. So I have heard of students who were denied now being offered waitlists, and some students actually being offered acceptance. This has everything to do with coronavirus, but even before that, these colleges no longer hold the power that they used to. Things are shifting, and students have complete control over their admissions process and also where they apply and where they end up. So just remember that. All right, next question. We have time for a few more. My junior daughter has a very high verbal score on the SAT, but a slightly above average math score. Should she submit her SAT score? It's a good question. It's really hard. So remember when I mentioned Santa Clara, they broke down the SAT scores. They actually broke them down section by section. So I would look at your daughter's evidence-based reading and writing score and how it compares to that middle 50% range at the colleges on her list, and also the math score. It's possible that it's a big enough range that they admit students that her scores in both sections are going to be fine and she can submit them. Next question, Sarah. My friends are all panicking, pushing their students to start on college work as juniors when so many of them are really overwhelmed by all these changes and can't really adjust to online learning. What's the balance? What's your best advice to reduce stress? Okay, guys, any juniors out there or parents of juniors, I don't want them worrying about college stuff right now. I want them focused on their schoolwork, whatever that entails. I want them to be connecting with their friends and their classmates through FaceTime, through Zoom, through other online platforms. I want them to stay active mentally and physically. I want them to throw themselves into something beyond Netflix. I think we all have those guilty pleasures, but I want them to feel as fulfilled as they possibly can right now as they end junior year. Because summer leaves them plenty of time Plenty of time to do those virtual tours. Can you imagine how much money you guys are going to save if you don't have to visit campus? Those virtual tours and virtual information sessions are going to be very convenient. It's going to save a lot of time. And anyway, the best college essays that I read every single year, and I've been in this business for over 20 years, are the essays written after junior year end. So I don't want them starting to write essays right now. They can wait until the end of when junior year ends and summer begins. They can have a clean slate, thinking about themselves, and start writing those essays then. They don't have to fill out the applications before then. Remember, Common App and Coalition App does an update over the summer. August 1st is usually when most students start filling out applications. They can ask their teachers for recommendation letters though. I would try to do that before the end of the school year. That's always a good thing to do, no matter if you go to a public school or private school, whether COVID-19 is happening or not. That's the one thing that they probably want to get done before the end of the school year. Because once summer starts, those teachers may not be checking their email as regularly. Maybe one last question? Okay. My son wants to apply to Wharton. What does the dean look for in these applications? Okay, so Wharton is an undergraduate business program. I know it well. I used to work at the University of Pennsylvania. A lot of the big universities, when you're filling out the application, you're not just applying to Penn. You actually are indicating which undergraduate school, even what major you are interested in. If you are interested in Wharton or any highly selective business program, keep a few things in mind. Business is super, super popular right now, which means there are a lot more students applying to be business majors. It means it's going to be more competitive. The most important classes that future business applicants can take in high school are not business elective classes. It is taking the most advanced level math class that's offered at your high school and doing really well. So AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, that's probably the most important class that a student is going to take if they're applying to business programs. So the admissions committee, the admissions officers for those business programs are going to be looking at the transcript as a whole. They want to see student doing really well in all those core classes, but especially math. If AP Macro or Microeconomics is offered, the student can take it, but it's not necessary. The admissions officer is also going to be looking at test scores if they're available. Math scores should probably be stronger than the other scores. They're also going to be looking to see if there are any activities that back up that interest or that passion in business. Your teachers that you ask, if they know you outside the classroom in some business setting as well as teaching you in class, that could be the right teacher to ask. But ultimately, a lot of these colleges, including Wharton at Penn, are going to have a supplemental essay. Why are you applying to the University of Pennsylvania? Why are you interested in the Wharton School of Business? That's going to happen for a lot of these institutions. University of Michigan has the Ross School of Management or Ross School of Business. They've got supplemental essays as well. It's a chance for the student to really flesh out and showcase why they're interested in business and why their background fits that college and that undergraduate program. So on that note, I think we've got to end. It was so good to see you guys, and I hope to hear from you. Give me some shout outs. Let me know where you're coming from. Continue to check out my blog. For the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been writing about COVID-19 because new developments are happening every single day. Obviously, you can check out my previous Facebook Lives, my weekly blogs, and if you want access to me on a daily basis, check out Application Nation because I answer questions from application families every single day, almost every single hour of the day, and I also offer Zoom calls every single month. So if I don't see you at my next Facebook Live, I hope to see you in the future. Good luck with everything. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye, everyone.